we are live on the internet. Hello, internet. Welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel. So I'm going to see if I can even see the live chat on my phone. Hopefully I can. Nope. Doesn't look like I can in the browser version. That is hilarious. All right. So yeah, YouTube updated so that I can't use my phone app to see YouTube. Excellent. And because of the way I stream things, I can't see the live chat. So just like if you're talking in the chat, Greg can't see you. Greg doesn't care about you. No, I do.
I'll try to keep it open.
Keep it open, and I'll trust you to play telephone and accurately deliver what the people are saying, which I'm sure you'll do.
Accurately or hilariously, we'll see how the muse takes me.
Right. But welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel. We've got a slim lineup today. Everyone here has lost weight, so much so that we've become less people. A trio of white guys on the internet talking about Taylor Swift. The insights are going to be amazing here. We're ranking the vault tracks from Red, slowly making our way through the catalog. But I think after 1989, we won't have any vault tracks to do, so we can actually just do like the albums and then move on to the next album and not spend 2 months per album until we get to Tortured Poets, which I'm repping my first piece of Taylor Swift merch on the channel, my Taylor Swift Tortured Poets sweater. I've officially entered my sweater era. But, yeah, so typically we begin these rankings by going through our history with Taylor Swift and our history with these tracks and any general commentary on them before we get into the ranking. Let's begin with Mike Walsh, your history with Taylor Swift and the Red Vault tracks and general thoughts on this. I see you've got a nice background there, so go ahead and start us off, Mike, while I grab a cough drop.
Yeah, I figured red, pink, whatever. It's almost Valentine's Day. Taylor Swift, obviously I've known about her. First song I really remember is You Belong With Me. I know I say that every time, but we ask a question every time. Makes sense. My thoughts going into this one were I'm really not trying to hate Taylor Swift. In fact, I'm actually really trying to like Taylor Swift. I do like Taylor Swift. I really, I like being someone who's like, no, she actually has good music when you see other people who are like, everything about her sucks and she's the worst. I'm like, no, she's got some stuff. But I'm definitely not the kind of fan to be listening as much as one would do in order to prepare for these kinds of things. As I was thinking, listening to these songs, I'm like, they're all okay. I'm just not enthusiastic at all about this. I don't say that to start this whole thing on the
right.
Cover. I'm just saying it's kind of funny. Like,
well, I've noticed a trend.
Yeah,
when we do the albums proper, you're actually in a pretty good mood. When we do the vault tracks, you're just like, I'm just not feeling this.
Yeah, and I think it is a case of like I'm not a Swiftie. Like that doesn't mean a hater, but I'm not a true Swiftie. So like songs that weren't good enough to make the album probably aren't gonna like really excite me. There's been some great gems in there. There wasn't really anything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. As I say, there wasn't really anything in here that I really loved. But it wasn't all 0 out of 10 either.
Right. So I think this is like the perfect example of just like, the difference between like a diehard and just like a normie, where like a diehard Kiss fan is going to be like, Time Traveler is amazing, and a normie is just like, right. I do not care about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so you're just
and that's exactly how I am with Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Where you're just like, yeah, the songs that are like, considered like the best and songs that made her famous, you're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I can see the appeal. I like this. And then like the Time Travelers of the catalog, you're just like, not for me.
Right. Yep. Very fair.
And Steve, well-known person who just like doesn't even like the good Taylor Swift music. It's like that Family Guy meme, like, I don't even like the good Monty Python. Steve is that.
Wow. I haven't heard that reference in a while. So I was not and continue to not be Taylor Swift's target demographic. But, I spent the week before this past one sitting on a sunny beach in Florida drinking beverages made of rum and fruit juices with the woman I love, so I showed up on Monday morning thinking, yeah, I can listen to a Taylor Swift more or less EP and be charitable. And then I logged into my work email and I saw that the layoffs are continuing and another 20 people were let go last week. And then I logged into, my social media and saw just a constant stream of news about the fascist takeover of our government. And then I sent Greg what he called, to avoid demonetizing it, just a bunch of BS.
And yet Mike's ranking was still worse.
We can only do what we can do.
Right.
And I can only send you so much nonsense in a week when we're all so overwhelmed by everything.
Yeah, well, hey, Mike's conservative, so he's happy about the fascist takeover.
Hard enough.
Mike is like, this is great. I love ICE knocking on everybody's door and asking for papers. What could go wrong? So,
I'm an immigrant, right, Mike? This might put our best friend's friendship status in jeopardy.
I don't hate immigrants. You're cool, Steve. Well, I don't. The first part of that is true. I don't hate immigrants. I don't know if you're cool, Steve. Sometimes you're my best friend, and sometimes you're my worst enemy. But that's okay. That's life.
All right. Well, let's get into this ranking, and just. Because I feel like we're, with less people on the panel, we're probably not going to have as much to say. And also with less enthusiasm on the panel, probably not as much to say. So in last place, according to this ranking, so each of us, 10 songs in this ranking, best song we put in the ranking could get 10 points. Least best 1 point, so everyone has the points they divvied up. This song got a total of 8 points between the panelists. Run, coming in last place. The weaker Ed Sheeran collab of Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran. It's not as good as their other collab. Like, if they wrote 2 songs and they had to pick one for the album, they picked the better one. And this one is just, kind of mid. It's just this is the white guy with the acoustic guitar at the party energy off the charts with this track. Except a girl sings some parts of it.
A white guy with an acoustic guitar at the party with his girlfriend who's just way too into his acoustic guitar playing because she's being supportive and doesn't have the taste to tell him otherwise, huh?
Yep, pretty much. I think this is, if you're a diehard fan of both, this is a cool little oddity. And I was just recording some Thin Lizzy Thursdays before this episode, and there's this song that's it's basically it's a 7-minute medley of 50s rock tunes, and if you're just about consuming everything the band has ever done and just oh, this is a fun little deep cut, that's cool. But for normies, you're just I just don't care. And this is the normies don't care. I think it's a pleasant enough song, but I can see why it was cut. Mike, do you have any comments?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So you said the overall. Wait, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say you said the overall points for it were 8 points. That works differently because I put it at number 8, but that works differently anyway, so that doesn't even matter. Yeah, I mean, I put it down there. When I saw that it was another Ed Sheeran song, I was just not that I hate Ed Sheeran, but I don't love him. I was just do we really need another Taylor Swift Ed Sheeran song? And then I listened to it, and I was I rate the song pretty low out of these 10, but he wasn't really the one bringing it down for me. I just didn't really care for the song overall. And also, he is not the worst duet or guest vocal appearance to appear on these 10 songs. So I'll just put that out there now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the guy from yesterday either. He's a fine actor. Steve, you were saying something.
I gave this one the most points of all of us because I put it, pretty much smack dab in the middle. Basically, just this is a passable Ed Sheeran feature, and just if we're ranking things, It's certainly better than Shape of You, which,
Like,
yeah, right?
like was that a really late era ringtone, or is that song older than I'm realizing?
No.
Is it-
This is a just using a song as your ringtone on a modern smartphone kind of thing.
Okay, that's what I'm making sure. I'm like, that song's not 20 years old, is it?
No,
Okay,
yeah, no.
okay. I was having
Yeah.
a little crisis there. Okay.
He did not spend $1 for a
Okay,
Metro
yeah.
ringtone.
That's what
Yeah.
had me freaking out. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but like, so it's better than Shape of You. It's not as good as the hypothetical Cradle of Filth song featuring Ed Sheeran that they refused to release, but is assuredly better than everything else that Ed Sheeran has ever done. But it's not the worst thing that he's done either.
Kind of like that Clay Aiken D. Snyder collab.
Right. Easily the best thing Clay Aiken's ever done. Maybe not the best thing D. Snyder's ever done.
I mean, but it's still really good.
Actually, didn't Clay Aiken actually had a pretty good song, didn't he? I don't remember anything about his career other than it was American Idol.
Right. I just remember his metal cover of Luck Be a Lady with D. Snyder being pretty sick. Like, that is the entirety of my Clay Aiken musical knowledge, but as far as I'm concerned, Clay Aiken is a fine metal vocalist.
I don't recognize any of the songs Wikipedia lists as his singles, so I don't remember if he had anything good.
Well, speaking of singles that Steve doesn't remember, next up on the list is Better Man, a hit from Little Big Town, written by Taylor Swift, and then she's like, well, I wrote around this time, so it's going to be a vault track. I'm like, that's fair. Might as well have that be a part of your catalog as well. So, you know, Steve ranked this last place, and we'll get to that stupidity when we get to it. But for me, this song it's a weird... There's annoyance for me because there's still the conspiracy people who say that Taylor Swift doesn't write any of her own material. And then I ask them, how do you explain the songs that she wrote for other artists that became hits? And then they say she paid someone to write them and she didn't write them herself. And I'm just like, okay, well, that seems like a lot of extra steps to prove you're a cool songwriter, to just like even like have a bunch of people like claim you wrote a song and send it to other artists. Like, that seems way too conspiratorial. And just Occam's Razor's just like, she wrote a like mid country song you don't really like. Like, what is more possible? That like she is able to write a song using basic chords and a very basic narrative structure that you say anybody could write, or this massive conspiracy with a bunch of people paid hush money to not reveal the truth that she never writes anything.
That would have to be a razor-tight NDA.
Right.
Especially for it to have not come out by now.
But the thing is, like, this has happened multiple times where she's written hits for other artists, and she even wrote, like, there was one song, like a dance pop song, she wrote under a pseudonym that became a hit. And even that they claim, well, no, that's still part of the conspiracy, and she's not writing anything. And it's a really annoying and stupid conspiracy, but once again, talk about just how dumb that is. This is a solid country song. It's like, it's good. I can see why this was a hit for the country genre, and yeah, I like it. Solid song. Thumbs up. Mike, let's go to you before we get Steve's whatever opinion on this.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with any other version of it. I agree. Solid country song. Thumbs up. What did I have it? Number 5, kind of right in the middle. But it was one that came on. I'm like, this is good. This is pleasant. It's not a Swiftian classic, but well, I guess if it was a hit, I guess in a way,
it was a Little Big Town classic.
It was a hit for whoever actually wrote it, but Taylor's just getting all the credit for it.
Right.
Damn her.
Weird of her to get credit for it after it was a hit with somebody else. That's just how deep the conspiracy goes.
It's one of those, you were talking. It was one of those things where I was just chuckling inside because I have all these weird, like, what ifs in my head where it would be because I fully don't believe that stuff whatsoever. But it would be funny one day, like, it just all turned out to be true somehow. You would just be like, "Wow, that was so elaborate and
so much effort."
I mean, if I were Taylor
wow.
Swift, I would do it once now, just for the sake of it.
All that ever, yeah, that would be pretty good. Yeah, but yeah, good song. I would be fine if it came on, but I'm out of all the, there's been Taylor Swift songs I've gone back to like since doing all of these where I'm like, I like that song. I'm gonna put that on right now. I don't think this would be one of those, but it's fine.
Are you surprised to find out that this was a country hit by another artist? Where I straight up
not at all. I was actually more surprised when you were talking about that. I'm like, surprised that that didn't register with me. Not that I'm a country expert, but if it was a hit, it very well. Maybe I have heard it and just don't remember it. But
let me put it to you this way: I heard it at the mall the other day. The other version of the song.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm surprised I haven't heard it at like some mall or grocery store or whatever. But maybe I have, and it just
didn't stick with you. Just like it's the kind of song that's like pleasant enough background, but you can see why it doesn't earworm you the way other songs do.
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't. It's a nice song, but it's not an earworm, really. Yeah.
So, Steve, you think this is the worst song of this collection? Are you just bad at recognizing hits?
Recognizing hits? I mean, yeah, I'm bad at recognizing hit songs that were hits on radio formats that I don't listen to. Yeah, that's not a thing I'm very good at. Honestly, so I ranked this one last, and I wrote a wall of text about it, but half of that wall of text is just a fight that an argument that Greg and I have had a dozen times on this podcast before and doesn't need to be rehashed. There's only so many chords, blah, 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 blah. She only knows 4 of them, whatever. The salient points are, I don't like steel guitar. Anything that features steel guitar tends to just get a couple points knocked off for me anyway, just as a matter of personal taste. This is Taylor sort of mimicking her own writing style. Like, the song sounds so much like Mean that, it starts to sound like
country
retreads. But like the really big part of it is just like, I found these lyrics so uncompelling. And like, you can write lyrics that are vague, but poetic and evocative in such a way that your listeners can sort of map them onto any experience that they might have had, that or they can invent their own, they can guess some interesting experience that you might have had. But like, if you make vague generic lyrics but have them be interesting, put them in an interesting way, you get compelling lyrics. Or if you write lyrics that are more specific about what's actually going on in your life, they can be more meaningful. But this song's lyrics are like just really, really bland. They're just like a pretty matter-of-fact retelling of a boring relationship drama.
So here is the unfortunate counter, is that like in the state that country music was in at that time and still kind of is, like that is the quality of what the audience wants and expects, for better or for worse, and you can argue for worse. Like the thing is, I listen to the pop radio station most of the time when I drive, and they will play some country songs intermixed with the pop songs because like whatever is like top 40. And the country top 40 songs are trash. Like, they don't have as good of hooks, and they're always about, like, the most vapid, stupid lyrical themes. And I think it's just that, you can argue that, like, the audience just, like, that's what they want. They don't want too much complexity. They don't want to really think. But that said, I think this is a bit more heartfelt, and I feel like it's the kind of song where, like, yes, it appeals to like the country fan who doesn't want to think, but I think it does also appeal to like the girl who's had her heart broken and is allowing exploration of that feeling in a broad enough sense. So I think like this works for both markets, but I think if you're the high-minded intellectual lyrically, it's not going to appeal to you. But then again, Jamie in our group chat, who never shows up, says this was a brilliant song and said you were wrong. So there's that.
I mean, I'll see the point that it is country music. She doesn't need to be singing about space aliens or whatever if that's not what the genre wants. But she should at least be singing about, like, I don't know, bootleggers murdering some feds, or
This
the
is-
union getting together and burning down the landlord's house.
That is, look, she's not Johnny Cash. For better or for worse.
Country music can be good.
But it hasn't been that lyrically for a long, long, long time, is the trick.
When was the last time a murder ballad was in the top 40 of country music?
That is a good question.
That's probably the problem.
Someone say something else, because I don't want to transition to the Nets song on that note. Literally
Didn't
anything
Miranda
else.
Lambert have something? I mean, Miranda Lambert had some pseudo
Well, she had a Before He
violent
Cheats
song or something, but
That's just about smashing up the dude's car.
Right.
you had one too. Okay, well, not two, but there's the whole Louisville Slugger and the Carrie Underwood song. So they're both smashing up cars.
Oh, I might just be confusing those two.
I think you're thinking. Well, in that,
The
yeah,
Louisville Slugger is Before He Cheats.
That's Before He Cheats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Carrie Underwood. But I don't know. I just remember I was dating someone at the time, and she was like, "I like this Miranda Lambert. She has this song about again whatever it was, violent." I'm like, "Oh, that's
She's got a song called Kerosene. That could be violent.
Yeah, maybe she burned some guy's house down or something.
Maybe she burned some guy's house down.
She did something violent. It was the closest thing I could think of in modern country pop history for you. Look into it. Maybe Miranda Lambert's your gal.
Gunpowder and Lead. That's a promising name.
All right.
Anyway, we did not transition away from terrible deaths. So on to the song about a dead kid, I guess.
I get
Rip
it
the
now.
Band-Aid off, Greg. Just yank it right off.
All right, so this is the song I ranked. I gave this 10 points as the best song on the ranking, best in this collection of songs. You both ranked it second from the bottom. Ronan is next on the list. So I'm going to begin by being respectful, and then make a joke at both your expenses. So this is the song that I skipped the most, but it's not because I think it's the weakest, it's because it makes me sad and want to cry every time I listen to it. A good song doesn't automatically mean a song you want to listen to all the time, but like, what is a profound piece of art? And so this was, I guess, when Taylor was on her like blog lurking days, and there was this woman who wrote a blog about her son going through cancer treatments and just like giving updates. And then unfortunately one of the updates was the kid unfortunately died, and Taylor Swift was really moved by it, wrote a song using lyrics from the blog posts, and combined those different lyrics together to create the song, and then donated all the proceeds from the song to cancer charities, and has since kept in touch with the parents, and the parents just think that Taylor Swift is like the nicest person in the world. They're big fans of hers. They stick up for her. They don't think it was like crass commercialization of their son's tragedy. They thought it was just like a sincere, like, artist reaching out, feeling moved, writing the song. And I think like musically, it has a very strong melody. I think it has strong emotional power. I think it's structured well. I think the performances, both the Taylor's version and the original, are great. Just like really heart-wrenching. The song, whenever she plays it, it moves her to tears, and I don't think it's fake. I think it's just like she really feels like the heartbreak in the song. So I think it's beautiful. And I think that you two savages ranking it as low as you did prove that you don't have hearts. So first off, Steve, Mr. Blue Matches, writing a song based on someone else's blog, Tumbleweed. You guys think that you guys are cool. Yeah, that's right. You didn't think I'd bring a Tumbleweed reference in here, did you? And then, no surprise that
no one asked for.
And no surprise that Mike, conservative Mike, who is fine with U.S. aid being cut off all around the world and kids die, is like, yeah, what's a song about a kid dying? I'm a conservative. I love the death of children. That's what we're all about. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Ronan. You both are savages for ranking this at the bottom. This is one of the things I was really upset with Mike's ranking about. Don't worry, we'll get to my other things to be upset with Mike's ranking about, but we've already been demonetized. Fuck both of you.
Have we been demonetized?
Oh no, we haven't. Shit, I lost the money. Who whoever wants to go first, whoever feels more offended by my commentary.
You can go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so it was an interesting, I guess, trajectory for me with the song and the story behind it itself, because it's the first song of the in order of the songs we were listening to for this, and so I put it on, I don't know, a month or two ago, whenever it was, and I was like, okay, it's just kind of, I knew nothing about the story. I'm just hearing it, and I'm like, it's kind of slow and boring, and I get it, it's coming as a bonus track, but for me, I'm like, the first song is slow and boring, like, come on. So I just didn't even really pay attention to it. I was driving in the car, got onto the next few, listened to it again a week after that, or whatever it was. I'm like, it's kind of slow and boring. So I think it was yesterday or something, I was finishing up, this ranking, and I was like, who is Ronan? What is Ronan? Like, what? So I looked up, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a sad story, okay. But it just wasn't having any emotional connection with me. And then even I'll admit, I had looked it up on YouTube, and so it comes with this video, like, all of the kid and his mom and everything, and it was in that sense, it was very emotional, and it was, but it did make me feel very sad and everything. And I was even like, should I rank it higher? I'm like, well, no, if you didn't love this song, I'm ranking it as a song. If it was like, which song do you think has the best backstory or most meaningful backstory or saddest backstory or whatever, then yeah, it'd be a completely different ranking. I just don't think the song does a whole lot, but
well, here's a question.
A nice story.
Can the context of a song change your opinion of it, where you like listen to it, it grows on you over time, and then when you add that context, like, oh, now I like it more. Like, could that have not moved it up a spot or two? I mean, you ranked it lower than Run. Could it have moved above Run, learning the backstory?
Okay, I was gonna say, didn't I? I did. I at one point had it above Run. I think I listened to Run again and was like, but I kind of like it. Then I put Run.
All right, honesty. I appreciate the honesty.
But I mean, in general, you are correct that there's sometimes you have a new context or appreciation. I mean, there's some songs I've come to like decades later where I'm like, oh. Unfortunately, a lot of that's age related. Where I'm like, I didn't get that at 15, but I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't hate the song. It's just just in general. I had somewhere in my notes. I don't know if it was about Ronan, but somewhere in my notes it was just one of these like, Mike generally prefers the upbeat Taylor Swift songs and isn't as into her slow songs. Something is somewhere like that in my notes. Not just what it is. So, but very nice in terms of the family really appreciating it and them staying in touch and everything. So. Absolutely no disrespect intended in that regard whatsoever.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to when we get to the Tortured Mike's department, because that entire album is going to be the most musical torture you have ever experienced. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it was funny because I actually did have a question for Steve related to this, so now's a good time to bring that up. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I actually really when we do these, I actually do put in some effort. Sometimes more than others, but there's always some effort. I'm like, I don't want a random number generated, but like I might have to. And then Steve, like as a guy who likes random number generator, why do they ask me to prove I'm not a robot? Like, what am I going to do with a random number as a robot? Like,
oh, I mean, if a random site is asking you to prove that you're not a robot, well, okay, there's two things that sites might be doing if they're asking you to prove you're not a robot when you're not like submitting a form or logging in or anything like that. One of them is it might be a load balancer or a CloudFront kind of thing, where they've got their proxy device up here before the actual server, and the proxy device takes in everybody's stuff. So that could be like Amazon CloudFront, or that could be Cloudflare or whatever. And as part of its denial of service, distributed denial of service offering, it just periodically checks to make sure that you're actually a human, so that bots aren't overwhelming their network. The other one,
that's very fair. I mean, you're giving me like a legitimately good explanation. I was mostly just having a chuckle. Like, who are all these bots hacking in to get random numbers out of a billion or a million or 12?
the other one is if they themselves have a bot and they just want you to solve captures for them so that their bot can get past them. That one's pretty common too. Okay. Or it used to be pretty common. I don't know how much that one comes up.
I never heard of that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you gave this 2 points. You, on the other side of the political spectrum, you, pro-abortion, also love dead children, just in a different way.
Yeah, like the kid should have died long before the age of 3.
You know what? I'm going to apologize for that joke. Yeah, I'll apologize for that.
That one was the impromptu one. I got 2 more absolute bullshit jokes too. So let's just barrel through them. So it's worth pointing out that this song was written in 2012, and 2011 is the year that La Dispute's seminal emo album Wildlife came out, featuring the song "I See Everything," which is also about a kid dying of cancer. So if you want to listen to this, a song about a kid dying of cancer, probably the guy atonally screaming is the better choice. And third one is this is the one that Greg knows about. There's a post you sometimes see floating around of somebody on Tumblr just ranking the Marvel films based on their use of trains. Like the more trains appear in a Marvel film, the higher they rank it. And there's always a little part of my brain that's doing that with songs and samurai. So a song called Ronan by Taylor Swift is almost always going to be a disappointment because there's a part of me that's like, oh, the word Ronan? Oh, no, they spelled it wrong. Oh, it's the name. This isn't about samurai at all.
So here's a question.
Right, anyway.
How does the song Ninja from Europe tickle your fancy? It's off the Final Countdown album. They have a song called Ninja.
Listen to the album. I should listen to that album. Final Countdown's about going to space. Ninja's apparently about ninjas. Maybe.
They also have a song called Cherokee. They're really just like running the gamut of the human and intergalactic experience.
It's a very diverse album.
I'm not sure I want to hear what Europe has to say about Cherokee.
But you want to hear what they have to say about ninjas?
Well,
you want to hear what a bunch of Swedish guys talking about. They talk about everything. They're not afraid to tackle any lyrical subject.
I feel like the colonization of Japan by Europe is less excessive.
Yeah, but like, how much colonization of the Americas did Sweden do?
Yeah, but they're called Europe, though.
That's true.
Anyway, my actual thoughts on this song are, it was kind of a slower, forgettable song to start with, and then she's just ASMR noises all over the mic. I don't like breaths and lip smacks in music.
You're right. There was a lip smack at the end. I was going to comment on that.
I like to hear those things minimized, if not entirely eliminated. I recognize that entirely eliminating them puts me in the minority, but usually I like to hear them minimized, and this song did not do that. There is just a lot of gross noises.
But I think there's a point to doing it in this track, though, for like the intimacy of the piece. I get why it was done in this context. I generally agree with you.
T-Dog getting intimate up in my ears. That's gross.
No, there was a because I was like, what's wrong with my speaker? Like, what is it crackling? Yeah, there was a pretty aggressive lip smack at the end. And I don't know, I get what you're saying, Greg, in general. I don't remember with this song. There's some songs where like breaths can be they're almost a part of the the process of the story or whatever. But I don't know, whatever lip smack I'm remembering, I do not remember that potentially having any added emotional benefit. But I could listen to it again and try to give it the benefit of the doubt. But yes, I've forgotten that, Steve. So thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Or further ruining the song for you.
Yeah. Greg was like kind of pulling it back up. He's like, yeah, but you have a new context and appreciation. Give it another try. And in my mind, I'm like, I really will. And then Steve was like, put the lips
right back down to earth.
Right, yeah. No.
I mean, the most obnoxious lip smack in a place where it isn't appropriate is, I believe it's in the Warrant song Face. Which Billy Morris plays guitar on, and also, oh no, but he didn't produce that track, the other guys did. But there's a lip smack that just should have been cut out, and it's really, really prominent. So even bands you like are
Is
guilty of that.
Is that former Lipstick guitarist Billy Morris?
Yeah, former Lipstick guitarist Billy Morris.
So the guy, I mean, Lipstick, Lip Smack, the guy just has a lip thing, man.
Apparently.
Any
Actually,
music he's involved with.
When we were
news when
we were cutting out all the
camera, Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying, well, when we were doing Lipstick 1, he said the band should be called Lip Smack because of all the lip smacks he had to cut out of my vocals.
I was saying, Greg, bad news. You lost us our one viewer when you moved your camera.
Oh, no.
The only thing keeping Michael watching the stream was the cat.
I mean...
That's not it. He said the most interesting aspect of the stream is the cat, and then he left.
I mean, Michael is interesting because he just only shows up to say mean things on basically every video that I do, regardless of the subject. And like the most innocuous thing I will post, and he'll be like, "Here's why you're stupid, Greg." I'm just like, cool.
To be fair, in this case, he's spot on. All the mean things he said in the chat were correct.
I mean, that's fair, but most of the time he isn't correct. It's usually like I will share sometimes in my community page, I'll share like a video I think is interesting, and he'll say, "I'm not going to watch that video, and I'm sure it's stupid and you're wrong." I'm like, well, cool. Thanks for contributing to the discussion, bud. But hey, let's move on past that and on to the next song on the list, which ranked significantly higher by both of you. Nothing New is next on the list. And what's interesting is that I think both of you, I know Steve definitely said this, and I think Mike might have said this too. I don't remember. But this is a track where Steve buys authenticity from Taylor Swift, which might be the first time you've said that in regards to her music. Yeah. So, Steve, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, like this was a pretty decent song. Let me pull up the lyrics so I can double check it. But like, you know, I suspect that this is a song about being hassled by men in the industry mostly, right? So I feel like that's probably pretty accurate to her lived experience. Where are these lyrics?
Well, see, the lyrical interpretation I took was less about being harassed and more about how there was like the fleeting beauty standards in pop music, and how there was that very short window of when you can be successful in the genre. And you know, there are outliers of people who like have lasted beyond that window, like Cher or Madonna, and arguably Taylor Swift, as you know, she is, you know, reaching into her mid-30s. Beyonce would be another one who is, you know, outlasted the general shelf life of artists in the genre. And I think, you know, with Taylor and Beyonce, I think it's a combination of things. I think we, as society, at least in terms of pop music, are becoming more accepting of longevity of artists, and in particular female artists. Like we've always accepted male artists continuing forever. Like the Stones Stones just won a Grammy. Like, and you know, the Beatles won a Grammy too, but in fairness, that was just like, oh my god, it's the final Beatles song, 2 of them are dead, and somehow they got that track to be cleaned up because they used AI to like get rid of the artifacting on the vocals. Oh my god, new Beatles song, of course they won a Grammy. But like the Stones, just like, they're just still a thing, and it's ridiculous. But the sentiment of Taylor being concerned that a younger, more attractive female artist will take her place in the spotlight and she will slowly fade. It's like a lyrical thing she's like addressed a few times, like Castles Crumbling also kind of did that, about like her fan base slowly leaving her. And there's even some songs on Tortured Poets that address this. So I think it's just like something she is just hyper aware of and concerned about, and just most artists aren't vulnerable enough to write a song about that and release it. Like, you know, Mike has read some Kiss biographies and knows that they've talked about, they had their concerns about their fading fan base, but they didn't have a song on Creatures of the Night talking about just like, all our fans have left us and we're sad. They didn't write a song about that. They're just like, I'm a war machine, do. So, but I think it is refreshing that like Taylor is willing to express those thoughts and sentiments in song form, and I think the song is decent. I think there's other songs that express the same idea, maybe better. But it's interesting that like she keeps revisiting this theme because I think she is just genuinely concerned about it and terrified about it.
Yeah. You know, I suspect once you reach a certain level of celebrity, the idea of losing all of that is pretty terrifying. Because, like, you know, if she's not a rich and famous musician, what is she? Is she going to get a job selling used cars? That doesn't sound right. My one real complaint with this song is just, like, something about Phoebe Bridgers' voice sounds weird and off. I think
Yes.
they produced her weird on this one. It's kind of like the what's her name, Halsey on the Machine Gun Kelly punk song, where like she got crammed through his vocal processing to match him, and it sounds weird and bad in that case. And I suspect in this case they tried to do very similar vocal processing on both women here, and it just sounds a little off for Bridgers. Whereas dude from Gojira, he always uses his own vocal processing. Every time I've heard him guest on another song, he sounds like himself. Or it may just be that Devin Townsend like treats every vocalist like their own vocal chain and does that with all of them.
So, Mike, you gave this 5 points. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I guess kind of working in reverse, what I didn't like about it was, I don't know, I just didn't, I thought Phoebe Bridgers sounded kind of weird on it. I just didn't think this song needed another vocalist at all. So it's not like, I hate Phoebe Bridgers, it needed Beyonce. I just don't think it needed anyone. I would have rather just heard Taylor sing the whole thing. It wasn't really a duet or two-singer song to me anyway. I don't think that. In my notes here, I was like, I don't think she brought anything to it. In fact, it probably diminished the song a bit for me to have an unnecessary second voice. So hopefully it was just a case of Taylor really wanting to work with her, and I hope it was everything she hoped it would be.
I think it's sort of so. Phoebe Bridgers is 4 years younger than Taylor Swift, which I think does work well with the theme of, oh no, what if I get old and someone young replaces me?
Okay, once again, me not having Taylor Swift context is shooting me in the foot here, I guess. Guys, I'm trying my hardest. I'm listening to all these songs. Now I need to know backstory about a kid and about Phoebe Bridgers' age. And, oh my goodness.
Well, honestly, I wasn't even sure about that when I listened to the song. I just sort of assumed that Phoebe Bridgers was somewhat younger than Taylor Swift, and I just verified it now. But even then, like, it's so she released this in what, like 2019 or something, 2021, where it's, you know, fairly well past the point where a 4-year difference is super relevant. Like, had she put this out when she was 21, the 17-year-old girl doing a guest verse on it, like, really would drive home that point. You know, when she put it out when she was 25, it still would have, but, you know, putting it out when she's 30, the 20-some-year-old woman who's been doing this for a while, sort of emphasizes it.
But I think there's also,
kind of way.
I think it's still like a level of concern because she is nowhere near as big of an artist as Taylor. And so, like, the mega legacy artists, they kind of get a pass and they do get to continue. And, you know, Taylor still could have that fallen off where I don't really think she will, though. I think she's going to be in, like, I think she's going to be in the Bruce Springsteen category where just, like, her album is always going to debut pretty high and she's going to get radio play for another, you know, decade or two. And then it might be the kind of thing where just like the fans will still like it, they'll still buy it in huge numbers, but it's not going to have like the cultural impact necessarily.
She'll still play arenas every 4 years when she tours through a market, but it won't be the biggest tour ever.
Right. Which, in fairness, like once you do the biggest tour ever, that's hard to top because like you broke the record. It's like, oh no, Bad didn't sell as well as Thriller. Well, like, well, yeah, because it was the best-selling album of all time. It's like, but it still sold really well.
That's true.
But yeah,
I mean,
weird to think that in the context.
Eras featuring Cowboy Carter.
There you go. Get that double headliner amphitheater tour.
Double headliner, everybody's mad that it's not country somehow tour.
It'll be the Whitesnake Judas Priest tour of that generation.
Mm.
So, next up on the list, we have I Bet You Think About Me, which is also like a standard country song. This one had a music video for it, the vault track, which was annoying for me when listening to it because the music video has a long section of like dramatic silence for the narrative. And since I listen to most of my music on YouTube, I had to remove that from the playlist and just find like a straight audio only version to put on my playlist. But yeah, I think it's a fine standard country song. The interesting thing about this song for me is because it's about her relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal and where things ended up, and about Jake Gyllenhaal being like this, coastal elitist, which is funny given like Taylor Swift coming from a wealthy family, talking about how she was raised on a farm and, the kitchen table bills. And, it makes me, there is the talk about like, how wealthy was Taylor Swift growing up. And I think based upon like my reading of her biography, it's that her father gradually rose in the ranks of his company where like maybe there were times where like, okay, they did live on a farm and were strapped for money and then gradually moved into wealth through like a job at Merrill Lynch. And so at that point, maybe that might be the reason why she pays her workers well, is that she remembers what it was like not to have money and then understands the difference of what money makes. Because yes, her dad did have enough money to like invest heavily in her record career, but is she lying when she said, there was like struggles over paying the bills at the kitchen table? Someone who pays their workers well, I generally think has to have come from like not being mega wealthy. So, but that is the one line in the song that stands out as to like whether or not that is authentic. But otherwise, it's like it's a standard. I'm a simple country girl. You're a city boy, but you're gonna think about me for the rest of your life. Here's my petty song. But it's catchy. Steve, what's your thoughts on this one?
The only part of it that I really liked was like the hyper specificity of the pettiness. Like, I did find it amusing that this song was very much like, most of her breakup songs, she tries to write them a little bit generic, be like, oh, a boy broke my heart and bad things happened, yada yada. Whereas this one is like, a boy broke my heart and his name was Jake Gyllenhaal and fuck that guy. I did appreciate that. The parts I did not like, which is why I ranked it third from the bottom, were the parts that were Piano Man, which is most of the rest of it, including the harmonica solo.
That's just Jake Gyllenhaal on harmonica.
We already have a Piano Man called Piano Man, and that's one Piano Man too many, I'd say. Even.
Whoa. Come on, Piano Man. You're gonna shit on Piano Man? Mike, back me up here.
Harmonica solo man.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things where I was quiet for a moment because I'm trying to run all the scenarios in my head where I'm like, how does Steve hate Piano Man? I'm like, was he a child? Like, was he just like walking on the sidewalk with an ice cream cone as a kid one day, and like these people were moving a piano and bumped into him, and his ice cream went into the street, and he cried? Like why?
Did Billy Joel fire him personally? Like, if that's the case, I'm just like, all right, I get it. Like, is Liberty DeVito your dad? Yeah, okay, like, fine.
So, my dad is a real estate novelist. Whatever that means. No, I mean, I overstate it for the bit. Piano Man is definitely an overplayed song, though. It's one of those ones where I've heard it enough times in my life, so if I don't hear it again, I'm not going to be on my deathbed and be like, oh, man. I wish I could have heard Piano Man a few more times. No, that is not a thought I will have. except for maybe ironically to be funny. If I remember,
That's going to be
this
the
exact conversation.
last thing you think about before the void is that. But Mike, sorry, you
Yeah.
were saying Piano Man, great song, but this song, you gave it
Read
7
my notes
points.
for this one. I think my notes you can just speak for it. I think that Chris Stapleton works better here than Phoebe Bridgers on Nothing New. This song is fine. Another Taylor Swift song about this. I mean, I did have it at my number 4, so clearly I thought it was one of the better songs out of this.
Who's Chris Stapleton? Because my notes say that Jake Gyllenhaal does the backing vocals on this.
It's credited as Chris Stapleton, as we know. It's actually Jake Gyllenhaal.
One of his aliases. Got it.
Yeah, she's known to do that. Whenever she has these songs about ex-boyfriends, she'll use that ex-boyfriend, usually as on vocals, but like you said, that was really interesting that she
sometimes on harmonica.
Right.
So that was very
That was very kind of her. Really, we say she's petty, but she's kind enough to invite them in to do backing vocals and even play harmonica on her songs.
She makes sure to pay her rich ex as well.
She really is the Stevie Nicks of her generation. She will have them perform on their songs about how much she dislikes them.
While also dressing like a witch and calling herself the G-slur.
So next up on the list is Babe. Steve, you gave this 9 points out of a possible 10. Is this a good song?
This one was, I feel conflicted about the number of points that I gave this. I feel like a bad person for giving it that number of points, but, like, this does sound like an old Jars of Clay song from that, turn of the millennium kind of era, which is nostalgic for me. Even though I know how terrible and awful the white dude with an acoustic guitar and a drum machine genre was, and how it should be buried in the past and never to be spoken of again, cough cough Sugar Ray. But yeah, this song does a pretty good job of recreating the high points of that era. So yeah, it was decent. I put this in my songs that are pretty good on this album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's necessarily anything even bad in this collection. Like, I mean, Run is entirely unnecessary for him, but I do like all these songs. So I think Babe, I gave it 4 points. I think it's pleasant. I like it. It's catchy enough. It's got a really good bridge, which Taylor Swift is sort of well known for writing good bridges. So, except for Phoebe. But yeah, solid little tune. Mike, what do you think of this one?
I'm just kind of sad right now that you beat me to the Phoebe Bridgers reference.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It happens. It's your live stream.
Womp womp.
So
Right.
as Steve pointed out days ago, so many of the songs out of these 10 have the same title as a much more famous or better song.
Or better
So
movie.
I don't really know why I specifically targeted this one in my notes, but my notes are, the Styx song is better. It really is okay, or even enjoyable, just nothing special. And that is how I feel about this song.
That'll do, Sticks.
That'll do. I knew that Styx was going to be your point of reference for this one. I zeroed out. I was listening to some Styx actually before the stream.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why specifically. It's obviously Message in a Bottle, Better Man. I mean, there's a lot of repeat song titles or whatever, which is fine. There's only so many chords. There's only so many words. There's only
Right.
26 letters, What
That's
are you gonna
true.
do? But
It's a pretty fundamental aspect of language that infinite things can be stated in it, though. So only so many words isn't.
Yeah,
I'm not going to buy that one.
Yeah, only so many
only
chords.
so many words. But you can't have a 10 billion word song title.
I mean, you could. It's just
There's
would it be on the streaming services and just called ska
you
song
can't
instead?
Even, you can't even post. Like I've had like song titles like mess up my computer. 'Cause, like, I can't like.
Those are called
it tried to save a
viruses.
medley
Those
of-
are viruses, Mike.
Okay, not a virus, but like the file. Yeah, I couldn't.
Do you need me to
transfer
explain
the
how
file.
Stack Overflows work?
So, but yeah, I get
That would be that would be funny to embed an overflow error in your song such that it actually roots somebody's iTunes and installs a virus or installs a U2 album, even worse.
Oof.
I don't know if anyone will get that reference.
A lot of people
I
get
mean-
that reference. That's
I mean, out of our young Swiftie fans,
right. Michael will get that reference. He'll come back, watch the rest of the stream, call me an idiot, and then say, I got that reference and that album sucked. Speaking of things that people named Mike think suck, next up is the song that I ranked number 2, and Steve ranked number 3. And Mike ranked at the bottom. So we have All Too Well, the 10-minute version, and that's on the list. I'm going to start with Steve here because I'm surprised that you ranked this so high.
Right? I am as well. But, like, I reviewed my notes on this one, and she addressed the biggest problems with the old version of it, i.e., like Natty Chug's stack of backing vocals didn't sound good, and instead she replaced them with herself, which sounded much better. Herself as a more mature, competent singer than she was when she originally did the album, which is doubly better. And I don't know, like, this arrangement seems pretty good in terms of, like, it clips along pretty well for a 10-minute song, and that I didn't feel like it got boring and started dragging. The only real complaint I had about it was she seems very proud of herself for her, fuck the patriarchy keychain on the ground line. And then I was reading the lyrics, the Genius notification linked to her store where she sells her F***CK, the patriarchy keychains. I'm like, man, that is some weak-ass cop-out shit right there, Taylor.
What? She's just trying to not get demonetized.
That's right.
You can't get demonetized in your own store. That's not how stores work.
So, but again, I'm surprised.
Say the swear.
I'm still surprised you ranked this high. I'm just genuinely shocked. Like,
I mean, most of the rest of the songs I didn't like.
I'm still genuinely shocked that this even just like, it's too long. I'm again surprised.
I love long songs quite often.
Right, but you usually with the case with Taylor Swift is like, I want this song to be shorter so it can be done with. You had like a 10-minute Taylor Swift song. Like, yeah, this is fine. So
she writes bad 2-minute songs and bad 3-minute songs. If they're bad, the 2-minute song's better. If she writes a good 10-minute song, it's fine.
All right. So Mike, you ranked this.
Architect, but I'll take it.
You ranked this at the bottom. So this 10-minute version was a number 1 single. This is considered to be one of Taylor's best songs, and this is considered by a lot of fans to be the definitive version of the song. Why are Swifties wrong?
All right, well, you kind of set me up on that because, so first things first, I'll fully admit that this was kind of a spite ranking. Without any other context or whatever, I do not think it would have ended up all the way at the bottom for me. But as I said in the beginning of my very long notes, which I won't read all of, they're mostly just for me, but I'm legitimately so disappointed. I let the hype of other people influence my expectations way too much. Yeah, I have no clue how this was a number 1 hit single. It just doesn't have number 1 hit single energy to me. And there's a lot of number 1 hit singles that I don't think are very good songs. So
I mean, remember Bat Dance was also a number 1 hit. So like, we're living in the world where Bat Dance was a number 1 hit single. So let's remember.
Yeah,
why are you bringing up really like good
what
songs
people want out of a hit single? So yeah, so there was talk when we did the original All Too Well, like, oh, you got the 10-minute version coming up, like that was such a hit single. A lot of fans think it's so amazing. I'm like, wow, okay, well, what did she do with this? Like, I didn't love the original, but I'm like, okay, it's cool. Like, what's she gonna do with the 10-minute version? She might really make it epic. It might be really cool. And then I was, being lonely single me, every once in a while I'll hit up the dating apps just to depress myself even further. And I'm scrolling through, and I remember seeing someone where she's like, I like Taylor Swift, like, All Too Well, 10-minute version, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, wow, this is just popping up. And then I was at a Christmas party back in December where there was Christmas karaoke, and one of my friends was like, oh, we should sing some Taylor Swift. And I'm like, oh, okay, Taylor Swift, yeah. And then that's when I got to talking to her about how I've been doing these streams with you guys and, like, listening to her deep cuts and everything. And she was like, you know what my number one is? My number one, All Too Well, 10-minute version. I'm like, wow, like, I am in for a treat when I listen to this song. Like, legitimately, I'm looking forward to it. What did she do to build on the original that I know and make it so much better? And so I'm listening to it, and I'm like, it's basically just the same thing over and over for at least 3/4 of the song. It's way longer than the original, and yet it managed to cut out for me, like, some of the best parts. It's twice as long, but has half the energy. Like, and again, Greg, and this is, yeah, just let me finish. I know you never called it Steinman-esque, so I'm not accusing you of that. But you did I was like, how is this, like, big 10-minute song a number one hit? And you're like, yeah, come on, like, I Would Do Anything for Love was a big hit, like, you know, like, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to listen to, you know, a 10-minute Taylor Swift song, and you're like, come on, like, you listen to Bad for Good, you know how, like, a good, like, long song can be. You never said this was anywhere near as good. Don't worry, I'm not accusing you of that. But, like, it was nowhere near as good. I don't know, like.
So
yeah, I think the
hype
original's better. Sorry, what did you say?
The hype killed it for you. Too much hype.
Yeah, there was so much hype. I was truly disappointed, so that's why I was just like, straight to the
and
bottom.
multiple girls breaking his heart.
Multiple girls breaking my heart. Yeah,
that is a good way to ruin a song for somebody.
That is.
No.
I
Just
think
straight to the bottom.
The Steinman comparison is valuable to bring up, just because, like, when Steinman writes a long song like this, he does movements, right? You have, like, a 45 to a minute long intro that is totally unlike the rest of the song, and then
this had none of that.
Yeah, this was a 3-minute pop song expanded into 10 minutes, rather than, you know, 3-minute pop songs stapled together to make one epic with movements.
Right.
Like, I know she's not rock, so I wasn't expecting some sweet, like, 2-minute guitar solo, but, like, Greg, like you said a little bit ago, like, sometimes she has really cool bridges. Like, I don't know if we were going to get some big, long, extended, sweet bridge, like some big dramatic moment or something. I'm like, what? I mean, shed some light for me if you can. Why is this the definitive version? Why do people love this so much?
So here's the trick, is that I think I actually like the original better. I think that the original version is played with more organic instruments and has more of a rock feel to it. I think the editing is tighter. I think there's better dynamic shifts, versus this keeps you in sort of like the same groove for most of it, and then has sort of like a weird, like, ambient outro. This one has a more of an electronic pop feel to it. There's not as much aggression in the instruments. So the other one feels more like a good, like, rock kind of power ballad, and this feels more like the traditional, or what Taylor Swift is more known for musically now, and revisiting a older song in that context. And I think musically I do prefer the original. I do think musically this one is weaker for me, but I think what works for this version, and what a lot of people like about it, is the extra lyrics. Because there is a lot of lyric that was cut from the original that is in this version. And this is sort of like the unedited diary entry. And so because of that, you're getting a lot more of the insight, and it feels almost like a rant in a way. And I think that appeal of just, like, the things you want to say to, like, your ex, where you might be able to, like, you have your version that you said to them that was, like, very carefully crafted, and this is just letting it all flow out. And I think there's a appeal to that, and the way that it builds, and, like, I compared the two versions a lot. It's like the two versions are almost in conversation with each other about what was cut and what was left in. And so it's like it's this weird, like, nebulous thing where they feed off each other. And so if you've loved the original All Too Well for years, which was often considered by fans to be like a lost classic and a song that should have been a hit, That song, the original version, got built up over the years, so that when she released a 10-minute version, there was such momentum in the fan base. I'm trying to think of like what would be even any kind of equivalent. The Kiss 10-minute version of It's My Life. Kiss does a 10-minute version of It's My Life, where it's like, and here's other reasons why I'm really freaking cool, man. And here's a Peter verse, and here's a Tommy verse, and Vinnie Vincent gets a guitar solo. Everybody's on the 10-minute version of It's My Life. It's not quite the same thing, but just like something builds up in the fan community over the years. But, you know, I think there's a lot of power in the vocal performance, but I think musically I vastly prefer the original, and I think there's not as much dynamic shifts as I want in a 10-minute song.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, that's really what it comes down to for me. Is for me, music is the primary thing. If I wanted a really good story or whatever, you know, there's books, there's TV, there's movies, there's poetry. I know I say this on most of our streams, but you know, for the new fans just getting to know me, when Mike listens to music, he prefers the music. That's weird. Yeah, it lost all my favorite qualities of the original song, and then just did a more boring version of it for toys. I don't know. Wow. Yeah. Just wow. I mean, I am trying to think where I would have actually ranked it. I don't know. It deserves to be at the bottom. It's 10 minutes long. It deserves to be at the 10. It's everyone overrates it. I'm living in some sort of vortex where people pretend it's a good song.
I mean, I still think it's good, and I still ranked it number 2. Like, despite all my complaints of it, I still think it's really excellent, and I think those good elements are worthwhile. I want some more dynamics, but, like, I also recognize, like, my biases. Like, I prefer, like, organic instruments. I am a rock guy, so I prefer the version played by a rock band as opposed to, like, the electronic pop version. But I still recognize, like, those good elements that are there. Like, some of those new lyrics are really excellent and would have made the other version better. So there's a fantasy best version of the song that still doesn't exist. The 12-minute version that is more like a Steinman song.
I mean, maybe we'll be doing this again in 20 years, like the 20th anniversary of Red, where Taylor fixes the mistakes she made on this version.
The 14-minute version that starts with a rock organ solo has a guitar solo in the middle, as well as a guest verse from
Phoebe Bridgers.
I'm going to say Megan Thee Stallion.
There we go. Like,
now, Greg, do you know how long the number one, like, how long was the number one hit single version? Like, even like I Would Do Anything for Love had a radio edit, which was still pretty long, but.
Of I Do Anything for Love, how long was the radio edit?
How long was that? How long was the 10-minute version edit for radio? Like, this was
10-minute version radio edit?
There wasn't. It was just this. It was this version.
You're telling me fans were listening to this on the radio, and this was the number one hit? 10
Yes.
minutes of that's just shocking. Not even if I loved the song, it's rare that you get a 10-minute song on radio. You know what I mean? It's incredibly rare.
The idea of the 10-minute song radio, the song that has 10-minute version in its title, getting a radio edit.
Like, the thing is, the radio edit was the original version.
Right, it'd be hilarious though. I want to see that.
You're telling me down there in Nashville, you guys were driving around and this would just take up 10 minutes of airwaves? Like, I'm not even trying to be funny right now. I'm wow.
Yes.
You guys are with me that that's not common, right? Like,
no, that's why this was a kind of a big deal, that this was a number one hit.
I feel like this is just an epic troll then. Like, get it, 10 minutes, you're stuck with it now. Ha, ha, ha. Like, we're all going to pretend to like it so that in 10 years Mike can feel tortured by it.
Well, but also the thing to consider is also that while, yes, there is like a correlation between airplay and hits, the market can be manipulated through, like, I think if you pay for a song, like you buy it on iTunes, that does move it up the charts more than airplay.
Yeah.
And so that's how that the Richmond, north of Richmond guy, that guy was basically AstroTurf because a bunch of like media organizations paid for downloads of the song to boost it to number one on the charts. It didn't organically get there. And then also, streams do count towards the charts. So that's why a lot of K-pop is able to be successful, because what are people actually listening to? That's why K-pop keeps showing up on the charts, because even if, like, people were, like, gatekeeping and not wanting to allow K-pop bands to, be played on the radio, because enough people actually just straight up listen to them on Spotify, they get on the charts. So this song was played on the radio, was played a lot on Spotify. The album sold really well, and she also did like a 10-minute performance of the 10-minute version on SNL right when it came out. So all of that together led to it actually being played on the radio. Like, it was a legitimate number one hit, but there was all these other factors that allowed such a thing to happen in the current market. But it was actually on the radio. So it was a combination of factors. It wasn't just it's a AstroTurf hit, but also wasn't like a fake hit either. Like, it was a legitimate hit.
I'm amused by the premise that, fans are angry because the CMAs didn't give Blackpink their duly deserved reward.
Blackpink, greatest country artist of our time.
Just because they're K-pop artists, they're not country?
Yes, although they could just do the thing the Beatles did, where they're like, we'll have one country song per album, so we can show up at these award shows. That's how you do it. So next up is the song that I'm wrong about. I gave this 2 points, Mike gave it 8 points, and Steve gave it 10 points. So Forever Winter is next on the list. I think it's fine. I like it. Just I like the other songs better. But also, this one had the unfortunate handicap of just I forgot to add it to my playlist. So for a couple weeks of listening to the album, this just wasn't there. And then I listened to it, I'm like, yeah, it's good. But I just grew more attached to the other songs first. So, but I mean, I still think it's actually a good song, and I think it could move up in the ranking. Like, my only real two like hard, firm stances in this ranking are Ronan number 1, easily, and All Too Well 10-minute version number 2, and then the rest is kind of nebulous and can kind of flow in and out. But apparently I was very wrong about this. So, Steve, why is this the best song here?
I just found it very interesting that this was a very competent Sufjan Stevens pastiche, which, I like this era of Sufjan. He's got some pretty good songs, and so hearing it competently aped in a Taylor Swift album, I found, was interesting and compelling. Especially with these vault tracks, you hear a fair amount of that, of her like experimenting with genres and trying to branch out and do something that other artists were doing, like, Babe doing the sort of Jars of Clay-esque thing, and she's got some like early forays into, well, I guess they're not early, but post early forays, I don't know, some dance pop kind of stuff on this album that is less well realized, and the acoustic and drum machine combo is less challenging, but recreating Sufjan is, enough of an artistic stretch to be interesting and well enough done to not be off-putting.
Fair enough. Mike, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was just kind of enjoying the song, in the background or whatever. I'm like, okay, all right, a little more something to it than Ronan, again, musically, but then also, it's one where, when I dug a little deeper, I'm like, oh, this one also has a very sad story to it. So it's kind of weird. Not weird, but weird for me, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't say it was, it wasn't poppy and upbeat, but it wasn't like the saddest sounding song either. Like, I guess the story behind it made me a lot sadder. Like, I would have expected a song to sound a lot darker, I guess is what I'm saying. Again, not that it was poppy or upbeat. I don't know what I'm saying, but I know what I'm saying. It makes sense up here. It's not coming out to you guys. But yeah, I liked it. I had it at number 3, I guess. It seems a little high as I'm looking at all these songs, but better than that All Too Well 10-minute version, I'll tell you that.
Well, do we have any other comments on this one before we move on? We spent like 10 minutes on the 10-minute version, and then Forever Winter, we're just like, yeah, it's good.
Wait, did we get your thoughts, Greg, on like what's so wrong with it?
It's nothing in particular. I think it's actually a strong song. It's just like I compared it to the other songs in the ranking, and just I thought that every song I put above it was better. So like nothing new. I think was just like a better song in terms of like hooks for me, even though this was still good. It's like the competition was a lot closer. It's not like if everything is like a 7.5 out of 10, like, you know, there's, all right, 7.51, 7.52. Like, you just have to, like, nitpick. And this one was just like, yeah, I mean, I liked it. It's just like, I just had to put it somewhere, and that's where it ended up.
So overall, we probably have about the same opinion of this song.
Yeah, I probably like it as much as you do, except I like the other stuff also. So, like, next up on the list, we have Mike's number 1, and I probably like it just as much as Mike does. And you gave it 1 point above me, Steve, and you like it probably less than I do. So the very first night is number 2, and this is, I can see why this was Mike's number 1, because this is like the upbeat kind of pop country song that sounds like what Taylor Swift was doing at the time. So, like, this seems like, okay, this is a song that was left off the Red album. Maybe because, like, it was almost like too, like, pop country, like something off Speak Now or Fearless, and she was trying to move away from that a little bit. But it's like, it's bouncy and fun and catchy, and, like, that's what Mike is here for. He's not here for, like, the very sad songs. He's here for the bouncy, happy songs. It's like, yeah, there we go. Music that is fun to listen to. And then dead silence. I thought that was like me teeing it up for Mike to comment.
That was the
Me
joke
too.
I was going for. Was like, why do I need to talk? You already gave my review for me.
Oh shoot,
but
sorry.
That was it. No, I'm kidding. I'm glad it made it my job easy. No, that's exactly it. My actual notes were: it has energy. It's positive. Not an all-time song, but pure Taylor Swift. Yeah, it was. Considering this chunk of 10 songs was one of my least favorites of the blocks of Taylor Swift songs we've done, whether proper album or bonus tracks. This one came a little bit later in the sequencing, so it was a little bit of a breath of fresh air. I'm like, okay, cool. So exactly, and everything you said is exactly why I liked it and put it at number 1. It's what I'm here for. If I'm gonna listen to Taylor Swift, I want it to mostly sound. I want 90% of it to sound like this. So
I cannot wait for Tortured Poets. It's gonna be so great.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
Greg's favorite Taylor Swift album, and the only one I own on CD because I got that for Christmas. The 2-disc deluxe edition with all the songs. So, Steve, what's your thought on the very first night?
So I ranked this one pretty well in the middle. My impression of it is that it sounds a lot like Run, but it's just like a little bit more energetic, so it gets some bonus for that. It doesn't have Ed Sheeran in it, so it gets a little bit extra bonus for that. But it does lose some points for still not having Danny Filth or Ashley Elliott on it. So that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, I think I like it far less than you do, Greg. It's just pretty okay.
All right, well, I'm done talking about it, so we'll just move to the number 1 song on the ranking. Let's look at this ranking from the bottom to the top. Run, Better Man, Ronan ranked really, really low. I'll read it one more time. Just because you don't want to listen to a song doesn't mean it's not good. I bet you, Nothing New, I Bet You Think About Me, Babe, All Too Well, the 10-minute version single edit, Forever Winter, The Very First Night, but the best vault track on Red Taylor's version, according to this panel of experts, is Message in a Bottle, which, I mean, kind of makes sense, because, the one Max Martin song that was left off the album... The one Martin Shellback song left off the album is, of course, the song that we consider to be the best song. So this was the first song that Taylor Swift wrote with them as she was trying to figure out, like, okay, I want to do something more poppy. What direction can we head in? And they did this, and then eventually did 22, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, and why am I blanking on the third of the big pop singles from Red?
I Knew You Were Trouble.
I Knew You Were Trouble. Yes, sorry. So those were the three that made the album, and then this was the first one they did when they were still testing the waters, as it were. And it's still a good song, and this is also a song that I've heard at the mall. So, you know, strong enough to get mall radio airplay for whatever that's worth. I mean, it's Martin Shellback and Taylor Swift. They do good work together. It's like you get Paul Stanley to write with Desmond Child. It's generally going to be good, or it's going to be, let's put the X in sex. So, a masterpiece. And this is in that category of masterpiece. It's great. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
I was not all that excited about this one. I ranked it the lowest of everybody in the panel. You know, again, songs that share their name with better songs. This is a real standout of, you know, Message in the Bottle is an absolute Police classic. And I kind of had hope when that ridiculous dance beat kicked in that, like, this was just going to be a disrespectful ass cover of that. And I was like, you know what? I might be here for Taylor Swift and co disrespecting the Police. That sounds hilarious. But then it was just her being sad about boys.
Steve is all about disrespecting the Police.
True. All cops are bastard includes Sting. But yeah, it's just a pretty generic one of her songs, shoved awkwardly into a middling kind of dance pop song. I can see why, now that you've said it, I can see the vibes of this is them experimenting with a new genre, and it got left on the cutting room floor because they just weren't very good at it.
Or
they needed a couple practice runs.
Yeah, I mean or one practice one. The other three made the album, so it's like, all right, we did one, and then like, okay, now that we're warmed up, this was the warm up, and it got cut. But I can see why this was good enough to get, like, to chart, get radio play, and to still, like, as recently as like a couple weeks ago, get played in public spaces. Like, I can see why this, like, ends up in rotation.
Greg is just really excited about being able to go to the mall.
I am excited about being able to go to the mall.
His household has listed their COVID restrictions.
So, Mike, what are your thoughts on this one?
My notes were points for being bouncy, but nowhere close to a Swiftian classic. And I had this at number 2, so clearly, like as I keep saying, this was not my favorite batch of songs for her. So this was my number 2, and I'm like, it's okay, but nowhere near the best. But yeah, you know, in terms of the story you shared with them, this was the first one, you know, they worked on. Credit to them. You know, this is a good kind of warm up session or whatever, and if they got 3 better songs out of the overall collaboration, then you know that's kind of how collaborating often works, and they just needed to, I don't know, as I shake off the rust, but I don't know if it was new, then I don't know if there was rust, but you know, just find a way to gel or whatever term you want to apply to it. Then cool, and like Steve said, this ended up on the cutting room floor, and I can see why. And then just to piss off Steve now, Message in a Bottle is like my Piano Man. I think Message in a Bottle by the Police is a good song, but it's my like deathbed song where like I wouldn't be like, oh, I never heard that song ever again, and I'm sad about it. And I will be fair, I would say I hear Piano Man more often than I do Message in a Bottle, but I'm happier when I do. I don't know, Message in a Bottle is one of those songs where I'm like, like if I'm just flipping through radio because I don't have like any of my own music or something to play, like Message in a Bottle is probably gonna get a skip from me. Like, I don't know. It's not overplayed, but it's overplayed for me. So I don't know.
No, I
Yeah,
definitely.
still,
I definitely get that.
It's
I think
still
I will
probably a
break
better
your
song
heart
than
by
the
saying
radio.
I skipped past Aerosmith on the radio yesterday, which I know is one of your favorites.
Honestly, dude, I love Aerosmith, man. But if it's on the radio, I might be skipping past it too, because like some of like, I don't need to hear "Walk This Way" again. Like I don't know, like when I want Aerosmith now, it's like '80s deep cuts. So those aren't on the radio anyway. So
You want exclusively done with mirrors and nothing else.
yeah, I mean exactly. If you're playing anything from Done with Mirrors on the radio, I am tuning in and turning up and everything. But "Walk This Way," it's like a lower. It's like my I don't know. I'd say Ronan or something. I'm gonna rank it pretty low and piss off a lot of people in the process.
I think "Come Together" is my Beatles song like that, where just like out of every song in their catalog you could choose to play. And it's like, well, classic rock radio only recognizes "Come Together" because like it's a little bit edgier and grittier. I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Did you say "Come Together" is the Aerosmith song that makes you skip the radio station channel?
there we go. All right, well, that is our ranking. General thoughts seem to be across the board, just like, yeah, this was a weaker collection of Vault songs. We can see why a lot of them were cut. After this, like, 1989 is the last Taylor's version we have to do because she hasn't released a Reputation Taylor's version yet. So after that, it's just moving through the albums. Hopefully Taylor will be nice, and right after we do the Reputation episode, she'll drop the Vault track so we can just knock it out then. But yeah, closing thoughts on this collection of songs. Mike, you can call them mid again if you want.
Oh, I actually just earlier when we were going through the songs, I did have one comment I wanted to squeak in about Nothing New, and then we were on to the next song, and I'm like, it's not important enough to derail. But now in my little bonus time, I will say the lyric, how can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22? All right, I felt that. I liked the melody in which it was sung, and I liked the actual thought behind it. It is something I have thought many times. I didn't consciously realize I was thinking that. Like, oh, I knew everything at 18, but not at 22. But when I heard that right away, I'm like, oh yeah, been there. I somehow am getting less intelligent and wise and moral and ethical as I get older.
That's the lead paint.
That's the conservatism that comes with age.
It's all the lead paint in my house that was built way after they stopped using lead paint. So like I've been doubly screwed because they used lead paint illegally. Damn them. I used to live in a place with lead paint, and I'm like, is this going to be a problem? And they were like, are you going to eat the walls? And I was like, no. And they're like, okay, then you should be fine. So maybe it was in my late teens. Maybe it was around 19, 20, 21, whatever. I lived in a place with lead paint that ruined me. So maybe. But anyway, no, I genuinely thought that was a good and insightful line, and I just wanted to give a little shout out to that for Michael if he's tuned back into us.
He'll come back and watch the VOD. Steve, closing thoughts on this collection of songs.
In Michael's defense, I too would listen to us at 1.5 speed or something if possible. No, I don't have any closing thoughts really on this album. I think he has a lot of stuff that's pretty forgettable that I won't really go revisit. Are we doing promos after closing thoughts?
You can do it now. I mean, my closing thoughts are like, these collection of songs are fine, but I can see where they were cut at the end.
Yeah. And obviously this episode is very silly just because, like, we need more Swifties to make this whole premise make sense.
Hey, look, I'm wearing Swiftie merch. I'm repping for everybody else.
If you can't get enough of Hot Take Steve and his terrible Taylor Swift opinions, before the next episode comes out, I will be at MarsCon in outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul on March 7th through 9th, performing with my bands Regdar and the Fighters and Nuclear Bubble Wrap, and you can come see us at a cool, long-running science fiction convention. Also, the guy from King Missile and Dogwool Head will be there, so you can hear the Detachable Penis song.
Nice. Say hi to Tim Walls while you're in Minnesota for me.
I don't think he's going to come to MarsCon, sadly.
He's a man of the people. He'll be there.
Maybe. If I spot Tim Walls, I will Tell him, hey, Greg says hi.
Yeah, tell him Greg says hi. He'll know who I am. We used to play Crazy Taxi together back in the day.
Excellent.
And Mike, what are you plugging this week?
Dude, I'm so annoyed because I never have anything to plug. And like a week or two ago, I thought of something I wanted to plug. And I'm like, I should plug that when we do the stream. Did I remember it or write it down or anything? Not at all. So I have no idea what that was. So just something off the top of my head because I think I saw it yesterday or something. Bryan Adams has a new song called "Roll with the Punches," which is good, not great, but good. And it's produced by Mutt Lange, who's famous, and we talk about him on this stream and these podcasts and stuff sometimes. So check that out if you're interested.
All right. I guess, what am I going to plug? I mean, you're on my channel, so, like, it's really easy to plug my stuff. I keep getting requests to do more video essays, and I keep telling people I don't have time. So, I don't know, maybe I'll do another one. Give me money and I'll make more video essays. That is my plug. Go to my Patreon. I think my Amazon wish list is in the description or something. Buy me the Frozen books I don't have. I don't know. What am I plugging? Oh, here's what I'll plug. I'll plug cool stuff that's coming out soon. Cobra Kai, the final episodes are coming out next week, as is Paddington 3, Paddington in Peru. So next week is all the great Greg content. Go check those out.
Greg will be at the mall.
Wait, where did Paddington come out early? Like you were sad you couldn't watch it?
So it's a British franchise, so it came out in England and other territories, and it was supposed to come out in January, and so the plan was to go see it for my birthday, and then they're like, no, we're going to bump it till next month, and it's coming out on Valentine's Day, which means I'm not going to see Paddington 3 on that day.
Sorry, man.
I know. Breaking my heart, Paddington. All right, well, that is the episode. Ending the stream. Bye, Internet.
Bye, Internet.
Bye.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I